Hola a todos, buenos días. Sorry, I forgot that the webinar it's in English. Hello everyone, good morning. We are just giving some minutes to allow the audience to connect. We will be here waiting. Just a couple of minutes, thank you. Well, I think we will begin the webinar to respect the time schedule. Hello everyone and good morning. My name is Jose Jimenez. I'm a tax partner in Mazars, Mexico. Today, we're going to talk about this new labor reform that covers the increase of vacations of Mexican workers. We have the honor today to have the assistant and attendance from the Mazars team from Jorge Villanueva, who is an audit partner. We have also Juan Carlos Juarez, who is the payroll director here also in Mexico. And we also have Alfredo Coronado, who is a senior manager also in the audit practice. Going to the next slide, please, Alfredo. I'm still watching the first one, Alfredo. Can you change of a slide, please? Ready. Well, the idea of today is to discuss about all the background and change that this labor reform will cover. It's not only thinking about labor. That's why we have Jorge and Alfredo, because there is an important finance implications regarding accounting standards on how to book these liabilities that might be triggered as consequence of the labor reform. As we put it here, and we of course will discuss the labor implications, right? That not only covers the impact of paying vacation to the employee, it also will cover the impact of social security, among other dispositions that we have in Mexico that has been affected by this new labor reform. Going forward, Alfredo, if we can go to the next slide, please. Well, we have this new decree, and I like to highlight why we have this change. It has been, the new government has been talking about the increase of vacations, comparing especially with Latin American countries. Mexico was the worst country comparing with other Latin countries on the amount of days that an employee can enjoy as a vacation on a calendar year basis. For example, Brazil have 30 days of vacation. Colombia have 15 days, 1-5. Argentina has 14 days. Chile have 13 days. So this is a number, an average number of vacations that employees has in Latin America. And as you are aware, in Mexico, since the first year, you were only able to enjoy 6 days of vacation. Comparing with other countries, we were almost half, 50% less than what other countries has. So the government has been talking about, encouraging the courts to make this amendment to the labor law in order to increase the vacations of the workers. And finally, at the end of December, on December 27, this decree was published in the official gazette. This means that there was an amending on the Article 76 and 78 of the federal labor law where this vacations increase was approved. What is the new minimum vacation? Well, all the as I was mentioning, we used to have 6, so everything is going double. Like if you used to have 6, this will be increased to 12, and this will go up, up to 8 days more on the ones that you already have. We want to have a specific chart on the labor discussion with Juan Carlos to be more clear on what is the meaning of this increase on a specific example. If we can go ahead, Alfredo. As you already know, there has been a discussion, right? That when I need to consider, the new days that employees can enjoy for vacations. So there is a transitory disposition when these articles were published that mentions the following. This article shall be applicable to individual or collective labor agreements in place on the effective date of the reform, whatever their form or nature shall be, as much as they are more favorable to the rights of the employees. And here is where we have seen some positions where there might be an argue that there should be, an hybrid mechanism where employees who still have who was hired, before this new reform, and the anniversary to determine the vacations, begin before the year end of 2022. And there is a discussion where we wonder if we need to go back and, and take an hybrid mechanism where you say, okay, maybe 8 or 10 months of the calendar year you were able to enjoy 6 days, but after that, January, February 2023, now you are enjoying, the 12 days if you are in the first calendar year. So this is something that it has been, discussed, but we believe that this transitory provision, and also knowing what is the main reason of this reform, is to give the employees the benefit of enjoying this increase of vacations. We believe, and that's the position we have taken, that we should give the full amount of new vacations and not going back, to the hybrid mechanism. Nevertheless, we are open to hear, position, and if there is any argument or defense that could help to take this decision, of course, Jorge and we'll discuss that, especially from a finance and audit situation. But we are open and to hear. But from my point of view and also my colleagues, I think we all agree that this is something that it will be, very important for the government to have this new days. So it's very, if you are trying or willing to take the hybrid mechanism, you should be aware that you need to have a very defend file argue in order to be able to apply this hybrid mechanism. With this being said, Juan Carlos, thank you for joining, and please go ahead with the labor provision. I just want to highlight that we will attend some questions at the end of the webinar. There is a section here in the application where you can make the questions, and please feel free to put it there. And thank you everyone for joining. Go ahead, Juan Carlos.
Thank you, Jose. Nice greeting you, and thank you for joining. As Jose mentioned, let's talk about labor implication from 3 points of view: regarding employees' benefit, social security and tax liabilities for the employees, and operational for the business processes. Go ahead, Alfredo, please, to the next one. Okay, in this slide, we are showing a comparison of minimum statutory annual leave valid up to 2022 on the left side versus the in force for 2023 on the right side. Okay. The first what I would like to highlight is the brackets are not exactly the same as you can see. In some cases, there is a deferment. Also, an additional single row for the 5th anniversary was added, marked with a blue star, as you can see. Second, not just 6 days were added for all the rows. For some anniversaries, there are up to 8 vacation days more. For example, for the 6th, for the 11th, for the 17th, for the 21st, for the 29th, for 32nd, and many others from the second part of the table, as you can see. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that all employers must to grant these days off. These are only the minimum statutory by law. The minimum, it means if previously in your company has been higher annual leaves, this cannot be decreased, must be keep them, okay? Only can be increased if applies, but don't decrease. The fourth point is this annual leave doesn't increase the cost directly. Vacation days are not on the top on the salary, are the same salary, but has a different name, vacation. It means if an employee worked for the company whole previous year is entitled to receive 12 months of salary or 360 days. No matter how many vacation days has taken or is entitled, are not on top on the salary. Unless, and just unless in case of termination with annual leaves pending, for those cases, the vacation days must be paid in cash and these days will become on top on the salary, but again, only in termination cases. Nevertheless, the previous mention, what really does increase the cost for all the employees is the holiday premium, known in Mexico as prima vacacional. That concept is on top on the salary, and the minimum by law is 25%, and it applies on the vacation days entitled to take. Now let's see. For holiday premium, increasing is up to 100%. You can see the first row for the first year, because last year, for the first anniversary in 2022, the company was granting the minimum statutory and had to pay only 1.5 salary days. For 2023, for the first anniversary, the employers must pay 3 salary days at least. Okay? That's why it's the double, but it's only 1.5 days additional than the previous year. Okay. Now, for the second anniversary, for example, before was paid 2 salary days. Now it should be paid 3.5 days. It represents 75% more than the previous year. 60% more for the third anniversary, 50% in case of fourth, and so on until the 33% in the last row shown here. Okay. But just to finish this part, let me share here, in case of being granted the statutory benefits, the annual cost only increase in regards to the salary is only 0.42% as a result of divide 1.5 days on 360. It means the increase is minimum. Okay, for those employees who will have vacation days additionally, the increase will be 0.56%. It's a very low percentage in comparison versus the annual salary cost. Pero can we move forward for the next one, please? Okay, here, as some of you may know, holiday premium is part of the Social Security contribution basis. Okay, so if annual leave increase, the holiday premium as well does. Consequently, the Social Security contribution will increase for both for the employee and for the employers. According to our calculation, the increase from Social Security contribution will be from 0.25% to 0.36%. Just bear in mind that for Social Security contribution, there is a cap to 2,593 Mexican pesos, or 135 US dollar. Okay, monthly it's about 4,063 US dollar monthly. Regarding to the local payroll tax, in Mexico City, for instance, there should be paid 3% on the increase in payment for holiday premium. So that percentage is directly. And something very important is that severance payment will increase as well due to this change in the law. But I will let my colleagues talk further on it later. Alfredo, can we go to the next one, please? Okay, thank you. For the business, it could impact because the employees will have an increase from 33% up to 100 days off. Okay, it's representative for some cases, as we see. Okay, the main for the first anniversaries. Depending on the industry, the number of headcount, seniority, anniversary date, and other variables, the employers must have more control and better scheduling over annual leaves to avoid issues on achieve their targets, deliverables, and or quality of services. That's very important to take in consideration. And even in some cases, there will be needed to hire more personnel. Okay, but well, I'm done for now, and thank you. I will see you at the end again in the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. Let's move now to the part of the accounting effects of this change in the law. There are two main effects regarding the holiday liability or vacation liability, and also we are going to cover a little bit about the short-term and post-employment direct benefits. And under this consideration, the Mexican Financial Standards Board, that is called CINIF, as its acronym in Spanish, issued last month, by the middle of last month, a technical report. The technical report is number 656. What does this report considers? Is helping us, is assisting us to understand how to recognize the accounting effects of these two concepts, holiday liability and the provision for long-term direct benefits and post-employment benefits. Before moving forward, let's put in place that this technical report is not part of the standard. It's not a new rule or a new norm or a new law. It's something that is guidance. These kind of documents, CNIF usually issue them to explain how the standards need to be applied in different new circumstances and new external events. Just as an example, in the past years, there were a lot of documents like as this, the technical reports regarding some effects of the pandemic. Also, when the new lease standard was issued, there were also a couple of or so many questions regarding how to apply it. So the CNIF defined that it was a good idea to issue this kind of report. Now that we have this effect about the vacations, about the increase in the vacation days, it was also some of the considerations of the team of the board to build a team that will work on this. Now that we have said that, let's go a little bit deep on this standard in this technical report, I mean, so that how it has to be handled. But first of it, let's go a little bit about the general aspects of how we have to report, how we have to recognize in our accounting books the effects of this kind of liabilities. First, let's talk a little bit about the holiday liability. Then we'll, a few minutes later, we're going to talk about the post-employment benefit. But first of all, regarding holiday liability, our Mexican Financial Reporting Standard D3 or NIF D3 employee benefits includes some paragraphs that are here brought to our attention to understand how the vacation days has to be present in our accounting books. First of all, well, based on this NIF, in this Mexican standard, the payments to the employees for the vacations of the period are considered like direct short-term benefits or compensated absences. With this, it triggers an obligation to the company to recognize a holiday liability that must be recognized as an expense and a liability for compensated absence due to vacations. These two paragraphs are included, as mentioned before, in Mexican Financial Standard 3. Together with this, there's also some of the characteristics that are based on the Mexican labor law, Ley Federal del Trabajo, LFT, that vacations, they may not be compensated with remuneration. That is, they are not able to be paid for a current worker. However, if the employment relationship ends before the end of the year, the anniversary of the service, then the vacation benefit must be paid out with this under this, so it has to be considered as accumulative rights of vested benefit. So putting all this together in how to understand the accrual that has to be considered. So the holiday liability, the accounting recognition of this vacation liability or holiday liability must be applied to the extent that the right to the benefit arises for the worker. This means that once the worker or employee has the possibility to obtain that benefit, then the recognition has to be applied. How to be applied? Well, considering that this is a short-term benefit liability, so our standards mention that the valuation of this accrual has to be at face value. That is, no present value needs to be applied, considering that the short term is going to be paid during the future 12 months. As such, it's not necessary to discount by a discount rate to this liability. And so the face value has to be considered for recognizing this liability that will apply to P&L as an expense. So just to summarize, so the vacation liability that we are talking about must include the amount of the accrued portion, that is the proportional part of the benefit, that corresponds to number one, the vacation days approved but not yet taken, and number two, the part that also Juan Carlos was mentioning before, the holiday premium of the salary corresponding to the vacation period. Just as an example that we can see there in the blue frame below, if an employee started July 1st of 2022, at the end of 2022, December 31st, the financial applicability is that the entity should recognize a liability for the 50% of the salary that will be paid to the worker during the vacation period, and also the holiday premium that applies at the top of his liability. So this is the background of how the applicability of vacations or holidays are present in the accounting books. So now let's move to how the decree, how the change in these articles of the law apply directly now to the considerations of our accounting. So please, Jorge, if you can continue with this part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alfredo. Yes. So in essence, what we just covered is obviously we are focusing on NIFD 3, which is the one that deals with employee benefits, either short-term or long-term. But also there's certain other definitions that the CNIF believes are also relevant. But in essence, what the CNIF is trying to point out with this technical report is obviously looking back at what the accounting standard specifically states. The CNIF considers that an entity must recognize the effects of the decree from the date of its promulgation. So in essence, from the moment it was known to employers and workers, given that on that date there was evidence that the benefits the workers will receive had already changed, generating an additional and unavoidable obligation for entities. So it's an additional obligation, even though they have already been recognizing the vacation accrual and the vacation premium, or the holiday premium. They have to increase that liability because the law changed with the publication of the decree. What's important to consider here is that because the decree was published end of 2022 on December 27, at that point there was already evidence that the employer benefits would be modified, generating this additional and unavoidable obligation to the entities. It is also important to mention that this definition, even though it is not falling directly into NIFD 3, the labor provisions, when you look at the definition of a liability or a provision, obviously you have to go to NIF C9. We don't want to get very technical here, but just to refresh a little bit, there's 3 criteria that is required to be met before a provision can be recognized. The provision could be pretty much anything. In this particular case, we're talking about the provision for vacation accrual. So there needs to be a present obligation from a past event. There needs to be a reliable estimate. So the companies have to be able to account for the estimate. They should be able to have enough information to prepare a calculation. And there also needs to be a probable outflow of resources embodying the economic benefits. So in not so many words, the companies have already a present obligation from a past event. The past event is that the vacation or the vacations are accrued or the benefits are acquired as employees render the services. And then because we already have the promulgation of this decree, we have the basis, we have the tables as Juan Carlos just presented priorly. We already have the basis to do the calculations. And also this is an obligation that is unavoidable. The companies have to in effect pay those benefits as they become do, or as the employees gain the benefits, or the benefits are considered vested. So what we are trying to present here in the next slide, so these are the relevant paragraphs, 41.14, 15, and 20, is pretty much a breakdown of the definition of a provision, which I'm not going to go into that much detail, but pretty much what the CNIF is trying to point here is that this is an obligation. This is not something that could be avoided, that could be that is non-mandatory. So this is something that has to be recognized in the books. And the most important thing is, what is the point in time that the liability has to be recognized, or the liability has to be increased because of the changes we just mentioned. So let's go to the next one, Alfredo, please. We are of the position that the technical reports pretty much mentions that this has to be recognized in the books of the companies, and we agree with that, at the end of December 2022, and obviously has to be run through profit and losses, so it has to be recognized in the P&L. But also each entity should evaluate the effects and the recognition of the decree, because there's going to be many different circumstances affecting the estimate, and certain considerations that we would like to also bring to the table is companies that have many workers, and they are hired through union arrangements or union agreements, which are obviously dealt with on a collective basis. You have to consider on an employee by employee basis, if certain employees, the decree is going to increase their benefits because the union collective agreement is considered to be lower than the new thresholds. So they have new benefits due to the decree. In some other cases, the union collective agreement could be higher, pretty much for all employees. So what you are going to end up paying to employees is what is stated in the agreement. So whatever or whichever benefit is higher, you have to consider. So in these particular cases, when you have these union arrangements, you have to look at it and see where each employee is going to be, its individual calculation is going to be found, because in some cases the decree is going to bring some benefits to them, but in some others, depending on the seniority, it could be the case that the collective bargaining agreement is not providing the additional days that the decree is giving. So you have to look at that in very particular detail and on an individual basis. Also, for employees that have anniversary dates that run with the calendar year, obviously there's not going to be any effect in 2022 because they were hired on January 1st. So pretty much their anniversary date is going to end up at the end of the year. So you're still going to pay them vacation days for that particular year according to the previous law. So there's not going to be effect for those kind of employees. Also, you have to consider materiality thresholds, because in certain cases, even though you can do the calculation and you can end up with a different amount that what you have accrued in the books, the difference could be not considered high or significant. So in that particular case, it's up to the companies to determine if they want to recognize the additional provision or to increase the accrual, or because it's not considered important, you could end up just recognizing the expense later down the year or the next year. I would recommend to run this by the auditor as well. And also, we have found certain cases where attorneys are applying or are aiming for the hybrid method, which is what Jose mentioned at the beginning of this discussion or the session. In that particular case, employees that have a hiring date that falls at some point throughout the year, throughout the calendar year, the attorneys are pretty much recommending to their clients that they do the calculation for the part of the first part of the year that runs with the prior to December 31st, 2022, according to the previous law, and then the additional months that would run from January 1st, 2023 and on, according to the new law. So in this particular scenario, you would end up with a hybrid calculation, which is something I wouldn't say risky, but it's a position probably not what the authorities are looking for. So this is something we found this particular case in two of our clients when attorneys are recommending to do the hybrid method. This is not necessarily what we are aiming for. We believe that the position the CNIF is stating in this technical report is the appropriate one to do the whole calculation for the year of anniversary for each employee according to the new law. So what I'm trying to say, I'm just gonna follow it with a quick example. Let's go to the next one, Alfredo, please. And what we are trying to, well, first off, prior to the example, what the CNIF is also mentioning in this technical report is that it should be pointed out that according to NIF C9 and NIF D3, you have to at least include in the notice disclosures, not only obviously to recognize the accrual if the accrual is considered material, but also to point out or to explain what is the change in the accruals, if it's significant, what is the basis. So in essence, to describe the change in the way vacation and holiday premium is calculated due to the decree. So a brief explanation of that. And also to accompany that explanation with a detail of the breakdown of the calculation itself. So comparing the calculation according to the prior law or the previous law, and what is the change if with the calculation put through the books according to the decree. So that is something that you have to include in those disclosures. And now let's go to the quick example. So in this particular case, we are not going to be following the hybrid methods. This is pretty much doing the calculation going on a retroactive basis for the last anniversary year of one employee, which has a hiring date of September 1st, 2022. So its daily salary is 1,000 pesos. And according to the prior law or the previous law, he's entitled to receive 6 days per year of vacation. So because he was hired on September 1st, he would only be entitled to receive a third of the benefits. So instead of receiving 6 days, he would only receive 2 days at year end. So we're talking about the accrual. Obviously, once he reaches his anniversary date, September 1st, 2023, he would receive the other additional days. But for purposes of year-end reporting, we are only going to be accruing 1/3 of the benefits, which is 2 days, multiplied by the daily salary, which is 1,000 pesos. We arrive to an accrual of 2,000 pesos, and then assuming the vacation premium is following the 25%, which is the minimum threshold determined by law, there's an additional 500 pesos to be included in the accrual for a total of 2,500. And this is obviously the liability that have to be recognized according to the previous law. Let's go to the next one, Alfredo, please. Okay, so if we follow the new law or the decree, the change in the law, we would end up with, according to the tables that Juan Carlos presented, that the vacations for he's entitled to receive 1/3. So I'm sorry, 12 days per year because of according to the minimum days that he's entitled to receive according to his anniversary. So just for the first year. So instead of receiving 6 days, he will receive 12 days. 1/3 of that at the end of December will be 4 days, multiplied by the daily salary of 1,000 pesos. We would reach 4,000, and the 25% on top of that for the holiday premium, another 1,000 pesos. So the total liability according to the decree would be 5,000 pesos. If we go to the next slide, we compare both amounts. So the 2,500 that's been already recognized in the books, and according to the decree, the companies will have to recognize additional 2,500 to reach the 1/3 of the benefits the employees have already gained for 12 days based on his anniversary and his hiring date. So this would be the adjustment that would have to be run through the books. And again, this is considering, I wouldn't call it the most conservative approach, but the approach that you would probably arrive to if you read the decree and you read the technical report issued by the CNIF, which is obviously based on the accounting standards we just mentioned, NIF C9 and NIF D3. So it is not something due to interpretation. It's pretty much stated in the accounting standards, stated in the decree. So this is probably the best approach to follow. But we would also understand if companies, again, just by looking at the explanations given by these two law firms, that they would like to follow a hybrid approach. That is something that is also being considered by certain companies. Our only comment on that regard is that run it by a specialist, run it by the auditor if you are being audited on an annual basis, just to make sure that you are not taking a risky position, because we are of the position that if you take the hybrid approach, the authorities are probably going to contest that stand, and you never know what will happen. But it's more than likely than not that the authorities are not going to agree with that position. So there's probably potential litigation down the road if you follow the hybrid approach. Alfredo, I'll leave you with the last part of the presentation.
Thank you, Jorge. So let's move forward to the other topic that this technical report considers. That is basically the post-employment benefits, and also the direct long-term benefits that if are applicable to the company. Any comment that we will have here for post-employment benefits applies in the same way to other direct long-term benefits. So we will not repeat it. We'll just mention it once for timing purposes and for efficiency purposes as well. But first of all, just to bring back a little bit about how the NIF D3 applies here to this type of benefits. Let's just remember that the determination of the provision of post-employment benefits must be made considering the benefits that are established by the company. It depends according to the terms of the plan. If there's another different plan in the company, the legislation that applies based on the labor law, and also payment practices of the entity. These all three circumstances get joined, and that's the way that the determination of the post-employment benefits needs to be applied. Just as very quickly, the net cost of the period is the concept that NIF D3 give us to recognize the provision. It could be this could come from current service cost, past service cost, or the gain or a loss on a settlement, or if it's applicable for the company. Then this net cost of the period could be modified year by year by mainly two concepts: past service cost that we already mentioned, that are some adjustments, and these recognizing operating expenses, and also some remeasurements that could apply because the actuarial calculations needs to be updated. There are some adjustments to that, actuarial assumptions that need to be changed, experience adjustments as well. So this part goes, you can put it in other comprehensive income. There's also the window that you can record it as well in operating expenses. This depends on the accounting policies of it. Based on this, now let's see how the decree is applying to this kind of post-employment benefits. In this case, the provision for long-term benefits or post-employment benefits, let's see first if the formula for the determination also involves the holiday bonus or the holiday premium. Because if that's the case, then we have an adjustment. Let's just bear in mind that the salary or the vacation payment practically are the same. So what affects the post-employment benefit in this case is the holiday bonus or the holiday premium. So if we have this example that I would say is highly probable that is the case, because the holiday premium is included in the integrated salary that is necessary for calculating these kind of benefits. If we have this, if we confirm that we are in this position, then we need to adjust the provision. NIF considers that these adjustments should affect the net cost of the period as past service cost, because this is a change in the benefit plan for a non-recurring event that must be recognized. Under this, if we can put it in other words, the employee will receive the benefit of a highly holiday bonus, holiday premium payment, not only for the future years of the decree, so for all those that are already rendered. Based on this, if that we are now concluding that it has to be recognized as past service cost, then the effect of the adjustment goes to operating expenses, the P&L of the year for the company. As in the other part of the discussion, disclosures are needed, not only the adjustment, also the disclosures that basically is recommended to disclose the existence of the decree, its main characteristics, and how it is applied to the accruals, in this case, long-term accruals. And also, as we mentioned it during this discussion, it is worth that the entity must meet those disclosure requirements that are established in the NIF D3 based on the importance, based on the materiality of the so that it could be important to disclose with more detail based on the importance of the adjustment, of the affectation for the company, the effects that we are having present, and based on that, the disclosure has to be increased or adjusted based on this. So summarizing, these are the effects of the post-employment benefits or direct long-term benefits that will be applicable at the company. So under this is what this technical report explains to us. So if you are okay, or if there's something else that we need to comment, Jorge, Jose, or Juan Carlos, we can move to the questions. I don't know.
Thank you, Alfredo, and thank you, Jorge and Juan Carlos, for your comments. Do we have some questions? I think I'm gonna read it to respect the time of the audience. So the first question that I have is for you, Juan Carlos, and they are asking, are vacations days rolled over or accrued year after, or will they expire yearly? I think it's a question like,
okay.
Yep.
Thanks for the question. The employees must take their annual leave during the 6 following months after their anniversary. If that doesn't happen, the employees have a year more to claim, resulting in a period of a year and a half to expire.
Okay.
However, I don't suggest let vacation expire at all. In the eyes of the authorities, a bad practice, but there is a year and a half. Thank you.
Also, I understand, Juan Carlos, that certain companies could offer a longer period, right? I mean,
Yes.
It's kind of like an additional benefit that they could enjoy their vacations through a longer period, 2 years, 3 years, whatever.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question, Juan Carlos, is also to you. And if currently the annual leave is 20 days, the change has an impact? And if yes, how? This is the question I have.
Thank you. To answer that question, I would like to get back to the slide 9, Alfredo, if you can help me, please. that one. Thank you. Yes, it affects in that case, and company must increase the vacation days in the 6th anniversary, okay, and the next one, because if currently are granting 20 days for the first 5th anniversaries, there is not impact, but since the 6th one, you must to increase the vacation days.
Okay. We have another question, and this has to be with unions. You know, if there is a collective agreement in place that gives more vacations on the ones that by law are established, that means that I have to update the vacation, or this needs to be discussed with the union. How this could be? This is the question, Juan Carlos. I don't know.
Yes,
Or Jorge. Yep.
Yeah, in essence, you would end up paying the higher benefits. So if the collective bargaining agreement provides for higher vacation days, you would pay that. If the decree gives employees a higher number of days, obviously you have to pay according to the decree, and it would be advised to revise the collective agreement to bring it kind of like to the terms of the decree, to make sure that it's more about updating the agreement. It's not that the agreement is no longer valid, because it'll be valid pretty much for everything else. It's just more to bring it up to date with the new decree. But in essence, the employees would receive or would be entitled to receive the higher benefits. It doesn't matter if the collective bargaining agreement shows a lower number of vacation days. Okay. They still be entitled to receive the higher benefit.
Yeah, and the same for the individual employment agreements, Jorge. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And there is another question: do we have to renew contracts to reflect the labor, this new labor reform? That is another question we have.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's not necessary. The law is on the top on the employment agreements, so you can change it, okay. But if you don't do it, applies the law.
Yeah, in general terms, you cannot have an agreement that is not giving the minimum law requirements. So if you have that in your contract, you don't need to do it as long as you give what is on the law. But if you want to be more transparent and clear, it is recommended, but it's not mandatory. So that would be the situation on that. So
yeah, in the absence of a collective bargaining agreement, you would follow the labor law. So usually the collective bargaining agreements provide for additional benefits, or it's another way to put what the law already covers in writing for a specific company. But again, in the absence of one, you will have to follow the law. If you have one, and either collective or individual, if the benefits are below what the new law states, you have to give the additional benefits according to law.
Okay, and the last one is from a accounting point of view. What would be the position of an auditor if an accrual is carried out on an hybrid mechanism? That I think that's a good point. Yep.
You want to answer this, Alfredo?
I think. Alfredo, do you want to answer that, or Jorge? I think Alfredo is not hearing us, Jorge.
Yeah.
I could answer that. I think it obviously when I was talking that specific subject, I mentioned that there's at this point we have already had discussions with a couple of law firms that they are, if not pushing, because they are looking just at individual cases for particular clients that we have in common. So it's not a firm stand that they are following. It's more a particular case for these two clients that we share, and they are following the hybrid approach. In this case, I would say to run it by the auditor, And obviously, I would consider, if I'm the auditor, materiality levels and if there are any other quality implications, because there could be the case that the company has already certain procedures in terms of reviews from tax authorities in place. And if you are pushing for a more aggressive approach, this could be seen from the eyes of the authorities as a way to avoid paying taxes or paying certain compensation to employees. So, because in the end, this is also a tax deduction. If you pay a higher amount of payroll, the deduction is bigger for income tax purposes. But also, this could be interpreted as a way of not following the law. So even though the difference could be considered immaterial, there could be some other implications. So I would run it by the auditor, and it could come down to a stand or a definition based on materiality, but it could also implicate certain other aspects. So I would at least run it by the auditor and see what they think. Considerations obviously was, as I mentioned, materiality levels, certain other aspects regards to reviews by tax authorities. So I would, at least from the point of view of an auditor, I would consider at least those two particular implications.
Yeah, and also from a tax point of view, I think that there might be an impact on the premium, on the holiday premium, right? Because this is taxable on an individual level, and having an hybrid mechanism could make that Mexican tax authority review that, right, and see that there was the hybrid mechanism might not be correct. And Juan Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong, we will have also, there might be a consequence on social security quotas, right? Because this is part of the integration of the base salary for social security. So
Yeah.
that will be very interesting for 2023 social security report. That some companies who has a certain numbers of employees are mandatory to submit it. So having this hybrid mechanism could generate, and let's see what those social security auditors think about it, right? Because that might be even a position that you need to knock the door of your auditor on this practice, because there might be a difference. And imagine having this consequence on the next year, knowing that there is a difference in the social security. We know that social security is more aggressive on recaudation, so you can have a visit right away if you report these differences. So
yeah,
so
and
yep,
also Pepe, you pointed out one important thing, and I wanna go back to these two particular cases. The attorneys are pushing for the hybrid method, or I wouldn't say pushing. They are putting it on the table for the company to make a decision, but obviously they are putting on the table the hybrid calculation because it entails a bigger benefit in terms of the amount of benefits that they would end up paying to the employees, because obviously it's not about deciding on the calculation of 2-3 employees. We're talking about hundreds of employees in these two particular cases. So the savings could be considered substantial in terms of vacation days and holiday premium that they would end up paying according to the decree, versus following the previous law, for at least for the calculations that are following to calendar year 2022, versus what would be the whole calculation considering anniversary dates. So yeah, it's a big number.
Yep. Yeah, sure. Well, I agree with that. Time ends, so let's respect the schedule that we have for today. So thank you everyone for joining us. I know this is a very hot topic right now, and it's beginning to call our attention, and we have been receiving a lot of questions from clients or even individuals about this new provision. So if you have any further doubt, don't hesitate in contact us. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Alfredo. Thank you, Juan Carlos, for your time. And this video will be uploaded to YouTube in case you need to watch it again. And thank you everyone from your time. Have a nice day.
Have a great week.